Welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, MrSniDBitS,
I was pleasantly surprised. It was funny, it was fun, it kept the spirit alive.
BlackGirlMarvel,
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
Tylermakesfilms,
It's like so much depth because like nowadays it's you got A shot, B shot.
Allthemoviethings,
There's some great like wide shots in this.
Lieutenant Commander Ray,
Their love enduring through time is what connected to me the most.
and me, the Real Study movie voice guy.
But this was the first time where I got to see it like told in a way where I was like, oh man.
Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to The Real Study. My name is MrSniDBitS, and as always with me is BlackGirlMarvel, and tonight we've got Tylermakesfilms, and we do not have All the Movie Things or Lieutenant Commander Ray, but they will be back soon. Next week is already planned out, so we'll talk about that soon. But for tonight, we'll be doing The Holdovers and American Fiction, two Academy Award-winning films, actually, from last year. American Fiction won for Best Adapted Screenplay, and I know that The Holdovers won for Best Supporting Actress, and I think there was a ton of nominations for both. So we definitely know that those films are definitely acclaimed, and so we'll get into those. Next week we're going to have Pearl and The Descent. If you've never seen that, it is claustrophobic nightmare, and we're going to have a special guest, Mike Bedard, who will be on with us next week. That said, Lala has something to tell us about her normal announcement, I believe.
Yeah. So what's up, people? Thank you for being here, listening and watching and all that jazz. As always, we ask that you just go ahead and hit that follow, hit that like. It supports the channel, it lifts us up in the air, and it makes the algorithm say, hey, let's carry them over to some other places where they haven't been established yet. So if you're here and watching and listening, if you want to drop a comment somewhere to be like, hey, this podcast is pretty dope. Oh, I like this episode. Oh, hey, y'all should watch A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I haven't seen those movies. Have y'all seen those movies? I don't think y'all seen those movies. We have not. We have veto power. We don't always use it. But if you have a suggestion for a movie for us to watch, come join our Discord, become a real student. But just, give us that support. And if you want to donate some funds so we can put that back into the channel and beef this up a little bit more, we will not stop you. But again, if money is tight, because money is tight for everybody around here, just like and subscribe and share us to your pages. That helps as well.
It definitely does.
Thank you.
We appreciate it as always. We also have movies that we all watched this last week that don't have anything to do with the films that we're going to review tonight. This has become a staple on the show. I've actually enjoyed this segment a lot myself. So let's see. Who saw the newest movie? That would actually be me, I believe.
Facts.
Yep.
So we'll go in age order. So we'll start with the newest and go to the oldest. Well, how about that? All right. So that means that means we're going to talk about the movie Babylon, which I actually saw two separate times this week because I watched it and loved it so much that I turned around and had my wife watch it, who ended up saying she loved it so much. This movie is from the same screenwriter as Whiplash, so if you like that kind of chaotic nature in the film, he definitely brings that to his films. This is kind of like a bit of a fantasy version, but probably not. It could be pretty spot on to what Hollywood was like right between the silent era and the talkies. And so it shows what it's like for all the actors and the directors and kind of that transitional period. And it has a lot to say about film itself. It's a film aware of film, that it's making a film about Hollywood, that it's meta in some ways. There are even little kind of like, you wouldn't expect jokes just for the audience in the film, which is unique. You don't normally see that in a budget film like this, or I guess not an ensemble. It's an epic is what you would call this, I think. But you don't normally see this like tongue-in-cheek action that they do, where they're making fart jokes in the middle of this really kind of,
Yes, sir.
big film, and it's perfect. The end of this film is probably one of my favorite endings to a film ever. Even though I don't think the rest of the film carries that as much weight as the end of the film for me, but I still think it's worth watching. I don't know why this movie got panned other than it is full of debauchery, but at the same time, it's called Babylon. So like, I don't know why you would not figure that associates directly, they'd be like hell, but then there's, flames in the movie and people are like, why are all these flames in the movie? Well, the movie's called Hell.
Well,
So
did you not see the title?
right. So I think it's very spot on. Margot Robbie brings it as always. She's amazing. Brad Pitt brings a subtlety to this role that he's playing a guy that is aware that he is a guy playing that guy. Like he is playing Brad Pitt, but in the 20s, in a sense. There's a lot of him like self-deprecation to even Brad Pitt as an actor without it being direct. I don't know. I could go off on a tangent just on that alone because Jack is a very interesting character, but worth watching. Definitely check this movie out if you like that kind of thing. Tyler, you were going to say something about the scene. There's a lot to say, but the thing I love that you told me was about the scene where they're trying to get the takes, right, where they're going through the takes.
That super like just anxiety inducing one shot. Just like, I don't want to spoil it you really gotta watch it. I can see why people were probably panning it. It is like over 3 hours long. The movie's really long, but it's kind of great. But
you couldn't take a minute out of the movie, in my opinion. You really
sure? Okay, that's challenge accepted, man.
I just don't.
Challenge accepted. You know me.
You're telling a large story about the history of Hollywood. It needs it.
Yeah.
It needs it.
What's also great, I think, about that movie is like, I don't know if you guys watch Beau is Afraid, but like it has the same sort of like Ari Aster did Hereditary and Midsommar for A24, so they had to give him one, right? So this one is like Damien Chazelle's like, hey, I did La La Land, and I also did First Man, and those both got, and Whiplash. So you guys gotta owe me one. So like this movie is just fully like if they just gave him like full reign to do everything that he wanted to do in a movie.
So Tobey Maguire is an executive producer on the film, so I'm pretty sure, and I don't think he got executive producer for his name because Brad would have gotten that for his name. So I think he was a big part in this film and got to play the sleep. It's a weird,
probably his best role now.
It is one of his better roles, but he's sleazy, but he's like also a nice guy. He's a weird character.
I dig it. I dig it. I need more Toby weirdness.
Yeah.
Well, and you're gonna get it. But it's I don't know. The movie it moves in a roller coaster pace. That's the way I would put it. It's like, oh shit, and then everything slows down for a little bit, and then it speeds back up, and it never stops doing that. Yeah, I could talk about Babylon in a whole episode of this show.
You can babble on about Babylon.
That is accurate.
Wow.
That is accurate. Truly accurate. All right. So we also have Tyler, who wanted to talk about. Oh wait, no. Technically, your film that you wanted to talk about is the oldest film. So yeah. So I mean, it's also going to be the newest. It's weird. Yeah. He wants to talk about Alien because it did get re-released. So technically, The Last Dragon's from 85. Aliens from 79.
Yeah. Right. Well,
so you're up,
the oldest.
You're up.
That's right.
The Last Dragon.
Okay, so I watched The Last Dragon just to give you guys some context about this film if nobody's seen it. This is a 1985 film. It's like a martial arts comedy film. And Berry Gordy. Well, it's produced for Berry Gordy, and I don't know why it's produced for Berry Gordy. I'm just reading the stuff because it's produced for Berry Gordy. Actually, and also too, Michael Jackson I think he's on the soundtrack or something like that. I was hearing music. I was like, I think like The Barge is on here and Stevie Wonder World a song on here. So I was like listening to some of the music, like this is very interesting music. And I was like, maybe this is why it's for Berry Gordy, because it's like a lot of Motown people in here, a lot of people that he had like a hand in kind of like guiding. So to summarize this film for anybody who hasn't seen it, this film is essentially a movie about a guy named Leroy Green Jr., but everybody calls him Bruce Leroy. because he is a martial artist who like idolizes Bruce Lee. Mind you, I don't know where bro went and got his training because he was like in Harlem. I don't or he just came back from Harlem. I don't know.
There's magical powers in this movie, so
there's so much in this movie that like makes sense but doesn't make sense at the same time. Like it should be like I feel like it should be called like a sci-fi martial arts comedy because it has like it's like a black dragon fist. Like I mean a black iron fist to me. Like when I was watching it, it gave like Iron Fist. But he's a better Danny Rand than like Danny Rand. This is my first go at this movie. This movie came out a year before I was born, so like I've never seen this movie.
So
it was weird. It was weird, but I can see why people would like it during that time because like it was like goofy and funny, and then it had like people love Bruce Lee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people would probably already be drawn to that aspect of it. It's silly. Like Shonuff is such a big live character.
Dude, Shonuff, the Shogun of Harlem. Love him.
Yeah, and then because it was like he had a beef with Leroy, and I don't understand why because Leroy never said he was the greatest martial artist.
Leroy was there to protect the people, right? So like he's there to keep the people and like it's not.
You're not going to make this make sense, sir.
No. Hold on. I am for one reason. If you look at martial arts films, you don't always have to have it stated. It was obvious who the protagonist and who the antagonists were.
No, and that's fine.
They were there to protect the village, and so in this case, Harlem is the village. And that's
okay.
So, yeah.
Excuse me, you're gonna hear me cough a lot. I'm getting over a cold. That's okay, but like, yeah, but all this coughing, I be waking up in the middle of the night. Jeez, it sucks. But it just didn't make sense why he was just so mad at like Leroy's been gone for a while. They never really state how long he's been gone or how long he's been training. Excuse me, but he has like a whole family and they know he's like training and gone. But he just comes back and he wants to see a movie. And Shonuff is just like, I'm gonna kill you because I'm the greatest martial artist. And it's like nobody said that you weren't, sir. And nobody said excuse me, nobody said that Leroy was the greatest. Like nobody in the movie, right? I guess it must have been like underground circuits or whatever. But like it was just so funny.
It's known. It's just one of those things.
But he doesn't even. But here's the thing: Leroy is like the sweetest guy ever. All he wants to do is perfect his craft and like live his life, right? Also, I don't know how old he is. I'm assuming he's between 18 and 21.
I would say 20 is accurate.
And so, like, but I'm like, how long has he been training with this person? Because like he doesn't know anything. Like a girl kissed him. He don't know nothing about sex. He's like this adult that's like his brother knows more than him, and his brother has to be like maybe 10 years, not 10 years, but like maybe like 7 years younger than him or something like that. Like his brother is younger. He's like, hey man, you don't know how girls like to do this, that, the other. He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, what is that? Like, how old are you that you don't know completely just like innocent. Some of these things? Like he's like a complete innocent. And I think to me, that's what kind of like made me continue to watch it, because you watch him go from like an innocence to like a less innocence. Because I'm not gonna say he got over that innocent part, but he went from like completely innocent, like a newborn, to like, okay, you like a toddler now, you know some stuff, you know how to like do some stuff, like you're not fully grown yet, but you know how to do some stuff. This film was just like very funny. It was very interesting. It had a lot of stereotypes in it, but this was 1985, so like I'll never fault something for having elements that at the time people didn't mind, which people might not mind now, even though I still don't think people would really mind now, like how things in it was, because the stereotypes were actually played by the people that the stereotypes are surrounded by. I think that makes a big difference, as opposed to like having like a non-ethnic person do these stereotypes, and then you're just kind of like,
well, and also who wrote it, who produced it, you know, how did the film get created? And I think that it was a much more
like the director
film, you know, so
like the director is black. He directed one of my favorite movies as a kid, Disorderlies, which it's such an outrage. It's like one of those like old 80s slapsticky like I don't know if anybody remembers the rap group the Fat Boys. They were in that movie. So I grew up watching the Disorderlies, but it came out in 1987. I love that film. Like we have to watch that one day. So we got to put that on the list somewhere. But yeah, but overall, I didn't mind this film. I see why people, because it just had a lot, like somewhere towards the end, they sure enough got this ability, but it was already stated that like if this ability can like radiate over your entire body, like you are the true master and all this kind of stuff. And of course, Leroy, spoiler alert, was able to get this like this ability draped all over his body because he was looking, you know what, okay, I'll say this and then I'll like end my little rant about this movie, because just like Snitty, I could probably talk about this, like this could be a whole other episode, like we can talk about, but and I'm going to also make a review on it, so follow me on BlackGirlMarvel, everything.
Yes, sir.
You feel me? But I will say this though, like it gave like Kung Fu Panda vibes in a sense. I wouldn't be surprised if Kung Fu Panda took some elements from this, because like just like in the first one, where like in the first Kung Fu Panda, where he's like, there's no magic ingredient, like you are who you say you are, you are who you believe you to be. That's essentially what The Last Dragon is. Leroy this entire time is looking for his master, and his previous master is like, I done taught you everything you know. You need to go out into the world and go like learn and like connect with people and like go find your new master. And when he finally comes back, he's been broken, he's been beaten, people have been tearing him up mentally, emotionally, physically, even though he's won some things, but then he's lost some things because he's protecting people. His master is like, you looked everywhere but like inside yourself. And so he was essentially telling him like, you are the master that you seek. So like, to me, I saw that as like a very Kung Fu Panda moment. And by him realizing that, he was able to get like this power that radiated over his whole body, which is super duper rare, and was able to beat Shonuff and kind of like reclaim like his status in the neighborhood, even though he didn't really care about his status, and he still didn't at the end of it. But like it like even his brother, who started off clowning him in the beginning, respected him at the end, even though I couldn't stand his brother. I want his brother to die the entire movie. I could not stand his brother for the life of me, and he should have died in one scene. I'm serious. This will be the last time I talk about it. I'll be done at this for real. I wanted his brother to die. I wanted his brother to die so bad, because he got loose. He was trying to save Vanity. Vanity in this movie is in this film. If you don't know who Vanity is, look her up. Beautiful woman. She was the best actor in this whole movie to me. Like, she was the only one that I really believed when she opened her mouth and said things. But he was fighting one of Shonuff's people, and he picks this boy up, like fully picks him up and tosses him, and he lands and hits his head on like a big oxygen tank, and all it did was knock him out. It did not kill him. There was no blood. I said he should have died in that moment. Like, he should have just been dead, because this grown man threw this child with all the force of I don't know what.
This is a wild movie. I need to see this. Like,
you really do. And I feel like it's wild in a, just like I like Disorderlies, it makes sense that Michael Schultz directed this, because it gives the same kind of like zany wackiness a little bit.
It sounds like Black Dynamite. Is that like that sort of like realm?
It's up there.
Like,
I'll say it's up there. I'll agree. I haven't seen Black Dynamite like that, but I know I've seen clips and things from it.
Schultz
so it's
also
very
did Car Wash.
It's in that RAM.
If that helps. If you guys have ever seen Car Wash, right?
We had the VHS, but then I think it was one of those VHS that my uncle stole from me.
It's prior. Carlin's in that movie. This is like primo 70s.
But yeah, Last Dragon. Go watch it, stream it.
All right, this is gonna be like a weird pull, but I just realized, I was like, as you were talking about like the power was in you along with like Kung Fu Panda and stuff, I was like, Austin Powers kind of did it like that too. Like, it's like not even a serious movie, and like it did it like that, right? Like, the mojo, it was in you all along, Austin.
All along. Yes, no, for sure.
It did that too, huh? Like,
that's why I said it's filled with like stereotypes and tropes, like tropes too, that you're like, hey, people have done this before, and it's a possibility that like it came from this film, or at least was inspired or something by this film.
Right. Going back to old movies is fun for that. Like, you get a lot of like fill in the blanks, moments, which is really great. Yeah. All right, Tyler.
Like, this is where they got it from? That's crazy.
You wanted to talk about Alien, but also because of Alien Romulus, right? So talk about Alien, and then you can talk about Romulus.
So I was telling you earlier that like, so it re-released in theaters, and I had never seen this movie in theaters, but I really wanted to, because it's like arguably one of the best sci-fi horror films ever, maybe best body horror film ever. But I have a particular like relationship with this movie. Like my dad showed it to me when I was 7, which is not a movie that you should probably show any 7-year-old. But at the time, I was like scarred. But now it's like this movie. Oh my god! Every time I think of Ridley Scott, I'm like, can't top this, bro. This was your peak right here. I think, like, to me, this was everything. Like,
And it was early
like
too.
so good. Like Sigourney. That's when like Sigourney Weaver. You know, like when you had like the heroine that was like, fuck yeah, like this is the one. Like that's why I like Everything Everywhere All at Once so much. Like it's got the same vibes, man. Like I know it's weird to say, it's like a weird connection, but I plan on trying to see it at some point in theaters. I do want to watch it a lot, but I remember that movie being like super scary. This like I loved like the shots where like you're watching a character and like the camera's pulling back and you can't see what's behind you. So like there's those very long shots that are like scary and like dread ridden. But I saw the trailer for Alien Romulus, and like I know people have their feelings about Covenant or Prometheus, which I think Prometheus was slept on. I know it was kind of weird, but I thought it was
I
kinda
love
cool.
Prometheus. I own
Right.
Prometheus.
I did
I
too.
love Prometheus.
I did too, but it got like kind of panned low key, like
Yeah, like even some of the like bad, and I'm really putting up like slow quotes for that. Okay, the
Right.
slowest of quotes. Even like the bad alien films or aliens or whatever are great films to me.
Well-
I love the Aliens might be like the franchise that I mess with heavy. Like I love the Alien franchise.
I'm right there with you. Why haven't we reviewed that series? There's a series we should review.
I'm game.
So in 3, which is the one that's pretty much panned the worst, is done by
Even
David
though-
Fincher.
Yeah, he just-
Like
because
know what
the
I mean?
studio
He
got in
froze
on
on my
that.
end.
The studio touched, like David Fincher got steamrolled on that one. Sorry, I'm very passionate about the third Alien movie.
we lost Law. Oh no. Well, okay. So you said you saw the preview for Romulus.
Yes.
what did you
I
think?
You guys both. I think you guys both lost each other. Oh, you guys both disappeared. That's what's happening.
What? I'm literally. That's weird. I can.
City, what's
see
happening
myself.
is that you both can't see each other. I think right now is.
That's bizarre.
Oh, so you're good. We're all good now.
Technical
okay.
difficulties. I don't see her in my screen here, so I'm confused. I'm gonna leave and come back. Tyler is gonna tell you more about Alien while we have our technical difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Alien Romulus. Like, have you seen Don't Breathe? It's that the guy who did that movie is directing it. So I'm like, okay, a little more hope. Like, because I liked Covenant, but like there was things about it that I was like, just not. It's still not giving like that like the OG Alien vibe. And I know it's hard to like recreate that, but like. I think you might like bits and pieces. It does like it's weird because it kind of like acknowledges Prometheus, but also doesn't. And I don't like movies like that. You're like they want to pan it, but right,
Welcome to the
exactly. Yeah,
They can't hear her.
but and then there was that thing with Prometheus that I almost didn't. I was almost excited that it wasn't gonna be an alien movie, but I know the studio was like, "Hey, you gotta. This is like too weird. I think you need to connect it somehow. Like, you gotta put alien." That's why like there's that whole bit at the end with the. I was like, "Yeah, I get it." And then Covenant sort of like, yeah,
Wow. I'm back.
yeah. Right, I was so hyped. I was like, yeah. Well, there's also that iconic like self-destruct like spaceship sound, the ding. Like once you hear that, you're like, that's alien. Like I know that exact sound. But yeah, like even I don't know if you saw like the teaser trailer for Romulus, but I was hyped for that. Like as soon as that dropped, it has the girl that's in Civil War recently. The younger photographer, she's in the new Alien movie. So like, yeah. And I liked her in Civil War, so I was like, okay, cool. Like,
So La is not showing up for me.
this is gonna be fun, like audio wise.
Quite literally, you've been talking, according to the recording, to no one, which is really weird. But you can still hear me. La,
I
can
can't
you
hear
even
you.
hear me?
Yeah.
She may have to leave and come back. That's what I had. Love technical problems on live shows, but we are gonna get this figured out.
It's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be fun to listen to it back on audio.
Oh yeah, this will be the best. This will be the best, right? Might as well.
Like, oh, I love that part when
Tyler was talking to the wall and the wall
said
was not
Romulus,
responding.
like whatever that was about.
So I didn't see the preview, but I can tell you that I'm excited because any alien movie I'm excited about. So
I'd say I think just watch that. And I'm not watching anything after. Like, I think that's it.
I don't think
like,
I need
that
to.
teaser
So I know
so
two
good.
things. I know one,
Yeah.
it's a new alien movie, so that's huge, right? Two, I know that it's Fede Alvarez, and he did the remake of Evil Dead 2013
And he did
movie,
Don't Breathe.
Right, and
So
2013 Evil Dead is peak for me. Like, I love that film.
Yeah.
So I will be wildly excited. Let's see if Law can be added back in here. And there she is. All right, so now we're back to.
But I am sad because Taika had a alien movie, like, or TV show. I forgot what it was, but he had something to do with like a prototype of the movie or something. Like, he was drawing it up, and I was excited because I wanted to see a horror film from like Taika that isn't like trying to be funny or anything.
What do you
like,
think about the fact that his career has basically kind of dropped off all of a sudden?
Yeah, I like Next Go Wins a lot, and I think the Thor, I think Marvel really hurt him, like, in general. Like, I don't know, it just wasn't. I think Thor: Love and Thunder really just, it wasn't his best, but I think people, like, as soon as they found a reason to kind of like come at him and like, oh, see, we told you he's not like, yeah, I just felt
People
like
are allowed to make a bad film and still make more better. Like,
right.
There's nothing that says
no,
he's
for
not a good
sure.
filmmaker. We've seen Jojo
But
Rabbit.
also,
we know what he can do.
As a person who, like, I'm not really like a huge fan, but I don't dislike him either because I enjoy Jojo Rabbit. Like, I enjoy like some of the other things that he's done. When I feel like a director doesn't care, it really turns me off. And with the last two like Thor movies, it felt like he didn't care. And I don't know if you can fully chalk that up to like maybe Marvel Studios or maybe a joint between the two of them, like 50-50, because he still like helped write it, he still directed it.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
Taika, those movies were very,
you know what I'm saying? It was very him. So it's like one of those things where it's like, it just felt like I wasn't a huge fan of Ragnarok, but Ragnarok was still, he's so bad about that. He's so bad about that. I'm not a huge fan of Ragnarok, but the other films felt like Ragnarok on steroids. Like, it, like if I go in retrospect, going back to Ragnarok now, it was a solid place for the drama and the comedy.
It feels better. I like it better.
And then those other, it's better based on the fact that those other two films just like,
but that's not good. That's
you
like
just
saying Jaws 2 is better because the
didn't.
revenge sucks. Like, that's not a good thing. Like,
it's not at all. Like, me, like let's clear that up. Me saying that is not being like, but it's a win because I like the third one now that came out ages before. Like, that's actually bad. Like, I should have been turned around, but it's also felt like Thor, like, he outstayed his welcome in my book. Like, Thor should have disappeared a long time ago.
I loved Thor all the way through Endgame, so maybe, but he wasn't done. Like, he still had a redemption arc to go through. So I don't know.
Which
I just think that they dropped the ball on that redemption arc pretty hard. That's just.
I just don't see. I mean, to me, his redemption could have been behind the scenes. His redemptions could have been in a one shot. He didn't need two more films that kind of didn't say anything. Like,
another
there could have still been. It could have been like, I wish Marvel would have stopped stopped. I wish they wouldn't have stopped the one shots. Like I wish they would.
They should have brought in Beta Ray
in-between.
Bill to keep the Asgardian thing going, and then we would be good. We wouldn't need. We
And
just
we would
have
be-
the
it would be
camel-faced
solid.
weirdo, and we'd be good. That's all we need.
I'm just saying. I just say it was a lot of avenues. I feel like they could have
Right.
taken, but I felt like with the stars that they had in the beginning, I felt like they bled them so dry that even they were kind of like, I think I'm ready to go. I think it's time for me to go. Let's usher in. And if they were being smart about this, they would have ushered in the Young Avengers, like on the
A
side of
while
them.
ago.
Oh, yeah.
A long time ago.
They could
know
have
what
had
I
a
mean?
few
Like-
sprinkled like they did, but they didn't take advantage of that. We didn't start to see
Like-
them
like-
until like Quantum
yeah.
like, which is too
Yeah,
far.
like Riri should have popped up, yes, in Wakanda Forever, but she probably should have been mentioned somewhere in like
Mhm.
Iron Man 3 or something like that. Like,
Well,
I
they
don't
dropped the
know,
ball
a
with that kid
blurb
because
or
they
something
could have
like
made
that.
him into something. There's a lot of things they could have done different.
And this is the problem with having an overarching multi-film like base franchise.
Mhm.
There's just too many different like
Well,
you
films
can do
are
it, but
different.
like there's so many different components that like it's like
Yeah, like no, for sure. But again, somewhere along the way, and as a person whose name is BlackGirlMarvel, Marvel's Multiverse, like that's my name. Like as a name like that, I can still admit when a company that I enjoy kind of dropped the ball on
Oh, yeah.
something. That doesn't mean
Well-
I'm gonna give up on them or anything like that, but they dropped the ball a couple times.
I think
Like,
that had they gone harder with just, I know they started with movies and that was the only way this is going to work. But if they had pushed weirdly harder to do more television gives you the opportunity to have multiple directors, each worried about individual episodes, and then a continuity person to make sure everything lines up. And television has a much better chance of
mhm.
lining up for those arcing stories than
Yeah.
movies ever could. Because
Or-
movies are independent productions, and an overseer isn't
Right.
as like powerful. Like Feige, sure, final say, but he's not thinking about movies in 10 years like a TV show person would have to. Like you
Right.
kind of have to keep that. I don't
See,
know. That's the way
I
look at it.
like that. Or for me, you could have did a thing where it was like you took your time because you were ahead of everybody. You didn't need to rush anything.
Right.
You are literally trying to beat yourself. Like nobody's doing what you're doing. So I felt like they have the time to like pause and take a step back and let's see how we can build this up. What are we trying to do? But I felt like they were rushing too hard to keep like that momentum. And when you do that, you don't put out your best work. You don't put out your best like through line work. You just don't put out your best that you could have put out. And so for me, what they could have did was they could have had these movies and then had these TV shows that fit in between the movies. Right? Like, but they didn't do that. Like you could have
I think
literally
the
made it
pandemic
so
had some to do with that, though.
no, for sure.
yeah.
For sure. But I feel like you could have made it so whoever, and you could do this like on contract, like get them to sign a contract that this is what they're supposed to do. If you got Taika doing like Thor films, right? These last few Thor films or whatever, right? Then Taika should be in his contract that he should also be doing maybe like a couple of TV shows or a TV show that's like in between this in the Thor like world, or vice versa. If the Russo bros are doing Endgame, maybe they do a couple of one shots or they do a couple of TV shows.
right.
If you know what I'm saying, or a couple of TV shows. If you're gonna have Sam Raimi do Doctor Strange 2, then he should have been a part of WandaVision. So he could have seen some of that stuff, and then that could have made sense. Like I think they should go forward knowing that like you can better explain stuff like for continuity and for extra like measure in a TV series as opposed to like maybe a 2-hour, almost 3-hour film.
Right.
And you can give people more context, but have the same director come in and do both so that it's just uniformed more than you having to come do Doctor Strange 2. Oh, did you watch Doctor Strange 1 or WandaVision so you can see these characters? Nah, I just winged it. And I'm just like, that's not good though.
That's the whole point, though. That's film.
What
Like
is it?
directors don't want to be told what to do with the story that they're trying to tell. Like that's kind of the.
But see,
idea of film, so.
but it's not when you have a shared universe, right?
No, I know,
That, to
but you're
me,
talking
that
about an industry that's the way it's been.
Oh yeah,
since-
no, oh for sure. But I
the
also
dawn.
feel like Marvel needed to be a little bit more tight about that because like you're creating a universe, right? It's not like this is like a solo film that has no point. Like it's not like you're doing an origin film and you could kind of like, all right, let's create this world that I like. that's a different story. If you create even in a shared universe, an origin story probably would have been better for Sam Raimi than him coming in on a part, essentially a part 2, a sequel of something.
Thoroughly enjoyed the Doctor Strange
personally
2, so I disagree with.
I
all
enjoyed
of this,
moments.
Oh my god, we gotta have
we have to, man.
We've done that film before.
Yeah,
so,
I liked moments of Doctor Strange too. Yeah, I enjoyed moments. I enjoyed moments, but the film as a whole, it could have been way better.
Can I just say one last thing about Taika though? All I have to say is he directed one of the best episodes of The Mandalorian, and he was a voice actor in The Mandalorian, and people still give him a hard time, like he can't direct something or like, you know.
No, he
like,
can. He absolutely can. I even loved some of the What If when he came back as Korg. Like I enjoyed all of that. There was one other thing. The Russo brothers literally just came out.
I do.
I agree. The Russo brothers just came out and said, I don't know why people want to bring Tony Stark back. How would you even do that? I'm like, did you guys?
I don't think.
No, I'm not saying they should bring him back, but for them to claim they don't know how, I'm like, you're living in a multiverse in this world. What do you mean you don't know how? There's a portal.
And
America Chavez can just go get his ass. Like that's not hard. Like,
but also I brought this up to my mom too. Like, we've shown that like not only do we have America Chavez who can hop, multiverses, and it seemed like she gained a little bit control at the end of Doctor Strange 2.
Right.
We also know that if they even bring back Charlize Theron's character, I can't remember her name right now, but she ripped a hole through the universe. So there's obviously more than one way to multiverse jump in a sense.
Right.
So like, let's not act obtuse. Like, we don't know how.
There's also time travel that we already know about. We can go get his ass from the past. Right.
We go snatch him from the past and bring him in.
There's so many
also, I made a whole video on my TikTok about how he pretty much embedded himself into his tech, like how he was able to replay. They were able to replay his last message, for like his family. I have a theory that like that's essentially how she creates the Tony Stark AI Riri for her set. Which, if they ever do that, because that'll be another way to bring him back, because that's how they did in the comics. He came back as like a Jarvis. Like an AI Jarvis type of character. Like, he was her AI because she was able to like piece these things together. People act so obtuse, like they're like, well, how is the question more like how they do it that it works, like in the sense that like, this is why I don't like when they bring, we can bring back this character anytime. Like, it takes away stakes, it takes away like any sort of like, but the whole Endgame thing is just like, why? If
you're willing to do prequels, then I don't. The whole stakes are already off, because there are no stakes in prequels. Like, by the rules.
But to me, you know how devastating it would be if they somehow figured out, which I don't know if Scarlett and Marvel and Disney have a working relationship anymore. I don't know anything about that, but you know how devastating it'd be if they brought back like Black Widow, like somebody snatched her from somewhere and then her and Elena reunited for a second, or maybe they brainwashed this Natasha and she had to like fight her sister. Like, to me, there's ways to bring back a character to add some stakes for the other people, not the character that they brought back. That character dead, because even bringing back Gamora for that little bit and making her a Ravager, but then realizing that she still kind of fell in love with them as a group and she could still see herself in that group.
I love that.
But she knew that like, that was cool. That was who I could have been, but not I'm this person. That still messed me up a little bit. I was like, oh man. And to me, that was a nice way to do.
Well, because it's acknowledging like, it's two different characters, not the one that you were watching. Like, this is a different character.
Exactly. Now. And that's what they need to do if they ever decide to bring back like Tony or, Cap or anything like that. You have to establish that they are not our version of that character.
Yeah, no, they should
like
bring
how
the
they did in the Marvels.
Tony back is what they should do. That would be good.
Honestly, if they go to another like multiverse, I would love to see drunken alcoholic Tony. Still brilliant, still smart, because they gave us a little bit of that in Iron Man 2, but then he got cleaned up in Iron Man 3 with PTSD. If they brought him back, I would love I'm not gonna say a more comic book accurate, because RDJ kind of killed that. But I'm gonna say he
wrote the comic
book accurate in the sense, like kind of accurate in the sense of him being like, just no facts. Just him being like being an alcoholic, but like a genius alcoholic, very very extremely opinionated and rude. Because they actually gave us like a jokey type of Iron Man that had like was still kind of quippy, still had like his little dickish moments, but he wasn't nowhere near
Like a
what
jaded
his,
version of
comic
like
book
he's even
counterpart.
more right.
Yeah, This one was more like, I'm hurt because I have no family. My father didn't love me. I miss my mommy. Like it was that one, as opposed to like all of that. And I'm a blackout drunk who's just very smart. I just created this in my sleep.
In the first movie, they showed him as almost potentially a blackout drunk.
A Rick Sanchez.
But anyway, we do have two films that we do need to talk about.
We really held over on talking about these two films.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
So the first film is going to be The Holdovers. We're going in release order, which they were released a month apart, and The Holdovers was the first release, November of 2023.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. I just want to acknowledge Aina real quick. She says, I don't know, I would love to see Tony's daughter. You know how dope it'll be if his daughter. Listen, I'm always a fan of if you're gonna bring somebody kid into this, do something with them.
Yeah.
Just don't bring them in.
Some kids don't do anything with them. Some kids just don't do anything.
But let's be honest. In the Marvel world, all they kids.
That's not true in the Marvel world. I agree. In 616 or even in DC, if you're like my great grandfather's second cousin's roommate was Flash, I'm also a Flash type character.
I'm also a Flash because it skipped a billion generations and it didn't hit me.
Or
but
I just
honestly,
was inspired, like because even that kind of shit, like Carrie Kelly is like, oh, I'm Robin because fuck it, I'm Robin because I said so.
I was inspired. Oh yeah, she created her own outfit and just hopped in as Robin. Batman knew nothing,
right?
And she just
like,
in.
Hey, dude, and he's like, what are you?
She was just like, I'm inspired, and then she just became like the first like female Robin. You're like, okay, sir, ma'am. Like, all right, but for me, I wouldn't mind seeing like, because we didn't really get to see, and I'll say this, and we'll just hop to movies. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get this out there, but I like we didn't really get to see like Cassie grow up, and I actually love the actress that played Cassie. I thought she did like a phenomenal job, and then like we didn't really get to see her like grow up and get smart, and then like in the third one she was just smart. It was just like,
yeah,
I'm okay with that. Cut to they're smart. I'm okay with that.
I'm not. I don't like that. I don't like that.
In TV shows, you can suss it out. You don't have time in film for that. That's the problem.
We could have had a TV show,
but I feel or a one shot or something like that. But also, I feel like in film, you do when your movies go for like almost 3 hours or like 2 hours and 45 minutes. You could put a scene in there of or not even a scene
sequences.
You don't even have to. I'm crying. I'm not even saying you have to put a scene in there. I mean, you could just like, you can show and not tell. You could put up like, show us her awards from when she was a little girl, and you know she got second place in this, or she got like certificates because she done did this. To me, that lays the groundwork that she's been doing something. But the most thing y'all showed us that she got from Scott, it was that she break and enters. Like that's like she's a thief.
It's okay.
Like
though.
That's the. You know, so
anyway.
I wouldn't mind seeing Tony's daughter and who she grew up to be. Like, just see who she grew up to be. That's all. I would like to see that.
I literally could take it or leave it.
Snitty over here, like, forget those kids. I don't care about those kids.
Don't get me wrong. I want to see the next Avengers, but I don't know. I
want to quote you. Some kids don't do anything, MrSniDBitS.
That's true. I'm not trying to be rude, but some kids don't follow after their parents. They don't. They just kind of go and live a normal life. That's all I meant. I meant some kids don't become superheroes. That's really what I meant.
But I want to see it though.
Some kids don't do shit. That's just the truth.
That's
just the way it is.
It's circa 2024, MrSniDBitS.
Like, no, and what's funny is that could easily be taken out of context because that's the world we live in today. People will literally snip that and be like, "Look at this fucker. He says all this terrible shit."
No facts. So, but hey, it'll give us some traction for the show.
Please cause controversy out of my words out of context. Please do, because I can prove
it works across the board.
that I'm not.
Yeah,
I'll do it for you. I'm back on TikTok. I'll
just start
this guy.
What did he say?
Your own co-host just set you up like that.
So nice. The Holdovers was of course up for an Academy Award, and, Golden Globes. It was up for everything. For multiple actors, for Paul Giamatti, of course, because at this point the dude's a veteran. But also for I think the screenplay. I'm gonna do terrible at this as I usually do.
So they did. So the Holdovers received 5 nominations, including Best Picture, Best Actor, and it won for Best Supporting Actress for Divine Joy Randolph. There you go.
Which I see why. She did phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
So,
when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah.
There's one moment that I want to talk about for her specifically, but we'll get to it.
No,
so this was
go
my
ahead.
first time seeing this. I assume, La, this was your first time seeing this.
Same.
Tyler, did you just watch this since it just came out, or did you rewatch it?
I might have watched it a couple weeks before we said we were going to do it.
Okay.
Just randomly, because I was like, I need to watch this movie already. Like,
right.
I've held off long enough. I've held over long enough.
So why don't we start with Tyler, since he would have seen it first, and we all kind of just watched it because it's new. Like, it hasn't even been out that long. So go ahead.
I wish I saw it in theaters. I feel like I say that on every movie we've ever reviewed. I'm like, I wish I saw it in theaters. Yeah, this one I've only ever watched. I think I think it was Sideways and Descendants. I don't remember Sideways because I was way too young, and I don't remember most of that movie. I remember liking The Descendants a lot, but this movie, I think when I was telling you guys, I was like super ready because I was like, this movie's emotional. I cried. I had cried a couple times alone in my room, and it was fun. You know, I was like, no one had to know. Paul Giamatti with his like crazy lazy eye thing. I don't know. What's crazy? It was so good. Whatever it was, like a contact or whatever it was. I was like, I know that's
it was
not
a contact. Yeah, I looked it up. It was a contact.
Oh, it looked so real. I had to a couple times. Like,
a lot of people were like, "How did I never know that Paul Giamatti had a lazy eye?"
Yeah.
But then no,
and it was just a contact because it was sometimes where like the iris itself was just gone. It was just white.
But I've seen that with people. Like I've actually seen
for
that.
sure. Like it's super accurate, and I was just like, why that eye should have got best supporting actor? Like what are we doing?
I think it switched eyes a few times, or they flipped the frame.
I think they flipped the frame. Yeah. I want to say they flipped the frame because I noticed that too. I was like, which eye is it?
Because I kept thinking it was his left, but then all of a sudden it was his right.
Because the boy was like, well, which eye should I look at? He was like,
but maybe they did that so we won't know. Maybe that's, you know.
I felt like they did. But go ahead, Ty.
No, I heard that some people were trying to like dissect it and stuff, but someone was just like, I think it was just like an inside joke. It was just like one of those things in the movie that like
might as well.
There's no meaning. It's just part of the joke. Like, yeah, Divine Joy Randolph. Like, I can see why she got like the award. The only other thing I think I've seen her in was The Idol. Unfortunately, the show was, you know, I have opinions. Yeah. But she is really good in that show. And so like as soon as I knew she was in this movie, I was like, okay, that's part of the reason why I wanted to watch it. But she just has so many like nuances to the character, and probably one of the most devastating characters in the movie, arguably. Also, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but did you guys know that the boy actor, what is his name?
Dominic Sessa.
This is his like debut, and he's like, I think he's only like 18 or something. Yeah.
No, he's 21. Okay. He might have been 18 when he filmed this, but I think he was 21 now.
Because I guess they had picked him up at some kind of like acting school thing on like some random audition, and then Paul Giamatti actually is the one that sort of like vouched for him. He's like, you got to get this kid. And like he came on set, and like that's how he was like, this is his debut. And I was like, that's crazy. And I saw that one of the scenes where he's playing with the rotary phone, they actually had to like stop and redo it because like he actually didn't know how to use it. Like he's like, he had to admit, he's like, I never used this thing because this movie's in like the 70s, right? Yeah. So like that would be it. That's another thing that was like really cool. It's like no cell phones, so like it really felt like these people were really isolated in this school. Like you had to write letters to talk to people, or like you wouldn't get messages till like days later, probably.
Yeah.
What a weird.
Also, another fact: this movie was not shot on 35 millimeter. I thought it was. It was actually shot on an RE Mini, and they did a lot of post production to do the film grain, the dirt, the halation, like. And it looked really good. Yeah. And on top of that, they also
all of that,
did the sound.
Like, all of that was done post, and it's all
digital. Yeah. And they didn't do any of like I think they did record in mono though, to give it that like because there's like inconsistencies with like mono versus stereo recording. And if anyone doesn't know, like mono is one. I think
it's just right channel
source
at all times.
Yeah. So and that's why the movie sounds like the way it does too. It's
but then they converted it to Dolby.
70s. Right.
Which is fun because you're not going to play it in mono at the theater.
Oh, 100%.
Like staring at the far right side going, this is wonderful. Because that you wouldn't watch the movie. You'd be so focused on the sound being
I really love Paul Giamatti in my right ear the whole movie.
What did you think, La? Oh no.
Bad. I should not have gone hard on it like that, huh?
Oh,
No,
no.
I'm actually thinking. I have a tendency to just like spit things out that I really want to like listen to a person's question before I like answer. I enjoyed the Holdovers. It felt like the type of film that we've been missing in Hollywood, or just like on the big screen in general. It's one of those films that like just felt like somebody wrote their experience. And I think we need more of those films, like more of those films that kind of just like makes you sit up and pay attention. Yeah, like a slice of life film. Like there were no explosions, there were no powers, there was no like, there was no like overtly anything sexual, there wasn't anything, you know what I mean? It just felt like a piece of like Hollywood that's been missing for a long time.
It's almost like like modern Hollywood movie. Like
yes, right. Like it's like the opposite of what Hollywood has been putting out now.
Right.
And I missed it. So I love the fact that it had the grain on it, right? It already put you in a place when you first started it, because like when it first started, I was looking at this like, what is this film? Because the credits, like when people's names would come, it was moving like that. It was like moving, like I was just like, what is this? And I was like, it's a stylistic choice. I was like, okay, I get it. Because it kind of puts you in the frame you needed to be in without you even like knowing the characters, knowing what's going to happen or anything. So I think it's rare for a film to kind of like set it up like that, just right off the cuff, I like that they had like abrupt stops to music and then they'll cut to audio. Like again, I love the grainy feel of it, because like this was like it went from 1970 to 71 and like that era had a different type of film feel to it in film, because like you could go back to like some 70s films and this film could fit like right in with some of those like 70 era films and
their way right into the 70s.
Yeah, no, for sure, exactly. And so like I'm a big fan of Paul Giamatti. Like there's a couple of actors which I just need to go down there like filmography and watch some stuff I haven't seen of theirs, because I always see Paul Giamatti in stuff not knowing I'm gonna see Paul Giamatti and stuff. Like I'll just be like, let me go watch this film, and then he'll just pop up somewhere and I'm like, where did he come from? Like how does he get in film?
If you haven't seen John Adams, it's a must watch.
Okay.
If you like Paul Giamatti, it is long.
I thought you were gonna say Big Fat Liar,
but it's
Big
like
Fat
seven.
Liar.
It's 7 episodes, 7
long.
hours. It's a mini series, but it's brilliant. Yeah. It's really good.
I felt like this film was, and usually I'm always a person that's like, where the black people at in these movies? Where's the black people? Because we exist everywhere. Because we do. But to me, this was written well enough that I wasn't really overly concerned about that. And they did have a couple of black people in it, and also it's the 70s, so like it's not fully away from racism, but it's not as close as it used to be, prior. So it's like it had a nice setting point where like, yeah, you had some like ignorant kids, but like you had a lot more that weren't so ignorant. So it gave it a nice balance where it didn't go into the stereotypical, here goes somebody talking about like the big black woman that fixes y'all food. Like, you know what I mean? It could have easily like made a really, really bad left turn, but it really just stayed straight. And like the ride was great. Paul Giamatti is amazing. Divine Joy Randolph, she is, I see why.
Yeah.
Like, I think the only other people that got nominated,
Paul got nominated
for Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, I thought you were
I
talking about
saw.
just from the film.
Oh no. For best supporting actress was America Ferrera, which I understand why she got nominated. I understand why she didn't win because I see Divine in this one, and I think like somebody else got nominated from Barbie or something like that. And I seen Oppenheimer, so like I kind of understood there. I haven't seen the other ones. Like I didn't get to see Nyad, which I kind of want to see that just to compare the But what Divine brought to this role, it's such a subtle power that I feel like those win awards a lot. The subtle power, like her performance for me was reminiscent of Viola Davis and Antoine Fisher. Like she doesn't have as much of a big role as Divine did because Divine was supporting actress, and people miss Viola Davis in that movie. Like people miss that she played his drug addicted mother in that movie, but her scene is such a powerful scene, and I believe that was like her first like movie, like attention movie. And to me, Divine was like just as powerful, just as silent, but just as loud in not a loud way. Like the scene in the kitchen
the Christmas party,
the Christmas party. My God, when the guy touched her, that's literally me. When I'm feeling emotional, do not touch me. I asked you to not, whenever she opened her mouth, she just sounded like somebody I was supposed to believe and trust immediately when she spoke. So, and Dominic says, I believe that's, for this to be his first film, and he's supposed to be in Now You See Me 3, so we'll see how that goes.
They're making a third one.
They're making a third one, sir.
Oh boy.
Which I'm okay with. To me, these films can go the way of the Fast and the Furious, and I am okay with it. Like I am a-okay with it. Because to me, they're pure entertainment, like magic is supposed to be. So I'm fine with that.
So is it Now You See 3, or like how are they gonna do that one?
It's Now You See Me 3.
I don't know, man.
It's Now You See Me 3, but no.
Yeah, I can't wait.
No.
I can't wait. I wanted to go the way of the Fast and the Furious. I needed to. But he did such an amazing job in this film as well. I thoroughly enjoyed him in this film. His journey from like this very like kind of damaged kid to still being damaged, because you don't get over being damaged in like a few weeks. Like you don't get over that in a few weeks. You feel me? And like it's it's funny, somewhere in the film I was like, him and Paul are like the same person, and then they showed that they both take the same
you can
medicine.
tell
I was
that
like
from the opening
yes.
moment. So the moment they have the argument in class and they both go their separate ways, they both go to do their corresponding drug, right? One goes to smoke cigarettes and the other one goes to drink alcohol and just blow off steam. And like right then I was like, these guys are the same.
Yeah, they're the same person.
Right.
And way before that scene, I was like, yo, they the same person. And then them showing that just lets me know that I was on the right track. Like watching the movie, I was like, hey, I got one. I feel good about myself. But I thought he did amazing. I thought their chemistry was great for that kid to play against Paul Giamatti. The scene where they say goodbye to each other. I'm telling you right now, when Paul Giamatti cries, I cry. You understand me? Because when he cries, I cried like a couple of times through this film. Like a couple of times. It was just such beautiful, poignant moments that like I really feel like you couldn't get from another film, because this film took its time and paid off every turn, paid off every emotion, paid off every moment the way it was supposed to be.
And back to your point about it being like the anti-Hollywood-ish, like the recent movies, like it was like super patient and like I saw some stuff where people were saying that the movie's really long, but I actually think you're just not used to that sort of like pacing. Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly the word.
And,
it's very
and y'all know me. Y'all know me. I'm quick to be like, we could have shaved 5-10 off the film. I'm quick to say that about a lot of things.
The wall
that
the curmudgeon puts up, right? He's such a curmudgeon and he puts up such a wall that to just chip away at that in 25 minutes would feel cheap. It would feel
cheap and it feel rushed.
Right.
I'll say that, like, I thought about this during the movie and I was like, I have to say this on the pod. When he finally, I think it was when Divine's character was like, it's Christmas. Why are you saying this to a boy that got left at Christmas? Like, what is your problem? And then the next scene is him trying to like do the Christmas tree and all that kind of stuff. It took from the start of the movie to almost like a little bit the middle of the movie for him to get to the point where it's like, be nice to this boy, right? That I was watching that scene and I was like, part of me was like, the cynic in me was like, man, it took so long for him to get to this point. But I also was like, but it was perfect where they ended it to get it to the next like half of the movie. Because if they would have did him being curmudgeon one more time, it would have been one time too many. They stopped it at a nice, perfect part.
No, you're right.
That I was like, this is. I had to like step back from my own cynic self and was like, that was great. One more time would have been too much. He did just enough to build this character up to make you kind of like him, but dislike him, feel pity for him, but then mad at him at the same time to be like, okay, this is when the character flips. And it was like,
and it was perfect. Like
that was great.
Seeing the two characters together. Cause like they both forget that kid forgets he's a kid. And then Paul Giamatti constantly forgets that he's a kid, dude. Like you can't just, can't be like as hard as you
But then like the kid forgets that he's a human too, going through his own issues. He don't want, and then again, he was right, but he was wrong at the same time because he was like, I don't want to be here neither. Well, like, I don't want to be here with you. I would rather be by myself reading a book.
Not only was he right in that kind of situation, but pretty much everything he said about those kids, for the most part, was not inaccurate. And most of them were legacy
not at all.
And most of them didn't deserve
it's just the hand.
To be where they were. But he assumed that Tully was one of them. And that's where he was wrong. You could see, but even in the beginning, when they did do their separation and he went and talked to Divine's character, to Mary. And you could see him just kind of relax into just being a person with her, which is weird. My wife had said that she would have liked to have seen them end up together in the end, which I could see.
Marion
and Paul.
And Paul. Honestly, I thought that was the way that the film was going to go in the beginning. If I'm being very honest, I felt like that was the way it's going to go. But then she turned out to be like a best friend for him in these moments, and I preferred her in that type of role. I could see it being like flipped.
She might have been his muse in a sense, like getting him back on the road.
Yeah,
because I also don't see her trying to get into another relationship for, if at all, or like years later, like going through what she's going through.
Because think about it, even with the other guy, what's his name, like David or something? I don't know what his name was, but that other guy,
she was standoffish.
Like, she was skeptical about that when he gave her the gift, and she was just kind of like, that's nice, but she's like grieving hard even though she's put up this wall. So like I think that like in this moment she needed the comfort of these gentlemen, but then she also needed like Tully as a young man that would probably be like around her son's age, or at least like in his not the same age, because obviously
I think they went to school at the same time. I think he knew. They went to school. I think Tully knew.
Yeah, I think he did too. So like around the same age and that same type of, she needed that connection just as much as she needed the connection of like Paul Giamatti's character and the other guy and stuff like that. So yeah,
the moment I think I loved from her the most. I absolutely loved it. It reminded me far too much of my father and all of my own life. I don't think I was absolutely Tully, but I very much was a smart troublemaker. I knew what I was doing, but I chose not to do it, and I chose the wrong path type of thing. Thinking his dad was dead, of course, reminded me of my dad. But then they played Cat Stevens in the movie, and you can't play Cat Stevens without it setting me off from my dad. Like it's just like
I feel like they do that. Like here's a Cat Stevens song. You're like, oh no.
You're like, my dad. Oh god, my family. Cat Stevens will just wreck you. But the scene that I think was perfect with Mary was, and it showed just the level of acting that she can do, was the moment during the Christmas tree scene, and he hands the kid the book and like spills about it. And talks about, and it doesn't even, talk about, or it doesn't even mention God once. And she kind of looks at him and goes, And it was just, she just said, but I got pages of information from her. Like it was wild that she could convey so much with such a simple gesture. that is stellar acting. So I can see why she won. I think Paul is a pleasure to watch in everything he does. He is, I don't know, I feel like he's everybody's favorite actor without ever being said that he's everybody's favorite actor. Like,
he's most people's Giamont cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
And he's PG and everything.
Cup of
right?
yeah, a cup of Giamatti.
A cup of Giamatti. Yeah. Yeah.
I had to look up how to spell his name. It's Giamatti.
Yeah.
Giamatti.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do the hand thing.
No. It's
What's the Giamatti?
Giamatti.
So this is how much I love Paul Giamatti. I love Lady in the Water because I love Paul Giamatti. And everybody hates Lady in the Water. It's like M. Night's least. Everybody hates it. They think it's like The Village.
I don't think
and then
I've
Lady
ever
in the
seen
Water.
it. I don't think I've ever seen Lady in the Water.
It's
So I gotta
M.
check
Night's
it out.
take on a kid's fairy tale, and I'm telling you, I like it. And it has an innocence. It has a fantasy element. He plays Mr. Heap, sorry, and he has a stutter, which is really interesting. Bryce Dallas Howard before she became as big as she is now.
I used to stutter.
It's
Not heavy, but I used to stutter.
It's a brilliant film. Then you might appreciate that aspect of it as well. But it's definitely fantasy. It's about a water nymph, if you will, that shows up in a pool in Philadelphia, and they have.
It's giving Shape of Water. What are we doing now?
No.
Oh
So
my
like,
God.
she looks totally human.
But I love Shape of Water though.
So it's I would say mermaid without a fishtail. Like that's more what I would go for.
Gotcha.
But she's like from another world, and it's like the muses of man, and like we've separated from them, and we're dying because of it. And there's a nice like deep. I don't know. Some people think it's a little too not campy. What's the word I'm looking for?
It's like the charm.
It's cathartic, and people don't like that about it. It's a little too on the nose about how humans are. And M. Night makes himself the like seminal character. Like, I'm the one that will save the world. He's that guy in the movie, and so that might piss people off. But I see. I think
I get that. But here's my thing: if I'm writing movies and I'm pretty much like financing these to a certain extent, because he does kind of finance his own films. Yes, he be with other like studios, but he finances because his movies go like and you don't know which way they gonna go. He pretty much finances his own movies.
Yep.
I'm in it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm in it. I don't care what nobody say. I'm in it. And if I'm the one that saves the world, so be it. Like that's gonna be my stance.
Like today, I'm M. Night Shyamalan with a K. Like
you feel me?
Today he's like, I'm the hero.
You feel me?
I don't know.
I'm the captain now.
It's just me. But as far as this film, I do agree. I think it paces really nicely. I thought the beginning was a little odd where they showed the school. I didn't understand the significance of that until after the film was really well. And then I kind of looked back and went, okay, they were trying to show us the like environment that they're in, or the environ is maybe a word he used.
Environ. Listen, I'm gonna go back and watch this movie just for the words alone because I was looking up words and I was like, that's a solid word, man. I was like, the words they were getting Paul Giamatti to say, my God. I was like, I love these words. I love words, period.
You're the human embodiment of penis cancer is
what a wild line.
Is
beautifully written.
Beautiful. That scene, I'll say, okay, that scene when Paul Giamatti is so good. I pray that I get to work with him on something. He is so good. It makes me like want to cry just thinking about that scene, because when he listens to what Tully's family is saying to him, right? What everybody is saying to him, you could literally see on his face how he replayed the entire events of those like 3 weeks or whatever that he was with him. You could see it on his face. You can see that the life in which he's built for himself, that he's comfortable with, was coming to an end. And it was his choice whether or not to sacrifice himself or put that boy, make that boy the sacrificial
He was
lamb,
a Barton
right?
man in the end, though. He did the right thing.
So you could see it in his face that because they set it up so well throughout this film to show you like why he's so like into this school because like that was all he had. That was all that was given to him in his world, based off of a lie, but also based off of his own like anger of what he did to this kid when he was a kid that followed him his entire life. But the acting he did in that scene where he was just like, his face got red. I really thought part of me feels like the headmaster knew he was lying, because he was like, you did this on your, like for yourself. I felt like, because the face he made when they were like, we know the boy's trash, just tell us he's trash and we'll put him in military school and we'll be all done about this, like just tell me. And you could tell on his face that he was about to lie. You could see it on his face that he was about to lie. And the emotion on Paul Giamatti's face, I started crying in that scene because I knew that he was about to lie for this boy, and that the life in which he built for himself, which he needed to get out of because he needed to shake up his life. Like, let's call a spade a
maybe
spade.
being on the road, the fish smell would go away, you know.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe just experiencing something different, experiencing a different a person or different area. Like, you can survive if you leave this campus, which is what was shown throughout those 3 weeks. You can be a totally better person, different person. He needed to step away, and the way that he stepped away, stepping up for a kid that like he'd been playing since the beginning of this film and beginning of that kid's career, essentially, like it was such a poignant, beautiful
like almost
scene.
meta, yeah.
It was such a, my God, it was such a good scene, man. Like it was like, I don't know, I just felt like they both renewed something in the other that was once dead, but you needed somebody that was like you to kind of be like, don't be like me. Like, right. And maybe you needed in like, I felt like Paul's character needed a little bit of Tully, and Tully needed a little bit of him, because it was just like, I'm you, and you gonna be me in the future. This, you won't turn into your dad, you'll turn into me. Because they both have anger issues. They both are very smart. They both are very like sarcastic. And that's why they butt heads a lot.
Is actually the one scene that bothered me a little bit, because, and I guess it's 1970, so I can let it go a little bit. But the idea of what the kid was saying is, I don't want to go crazy like my dad. And if you're genetically dispositioned to, you might not have a choice. Like, that could easily happen to him regardless. Now, it shouldn't stop him from going out and living his life and trying to better himself, which is what Paul was trying to teach him. But yeah, it's really weird when actors play a character with their same name.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, it was a valid concern that seemed to just get me brushed away for this like metaphor of how you're your own man. And I'm like, I agree, you can be your own man, but your parents' genetics like matter, like whether you like it or not, they matter. So,
but sometimes but I feel like your own will sometimes matters as well. So like, I feel like to me, that was the point of that scene, is like, because we don't know whether or not like it's a genetic disposition, or like maybe the father threw a tumor that nobody really caught, and this is why he kind of snapped. Or it could be genetic. Like, it could be,
I think it's genetic because of the fact that it just kind of happened to him.
People live a long time with some stuff that you don't know that they live with. But I'm just saying, like, either way, even if it's genetic, I feel like sometimes, even if it's genetic, you have no choice but to live your life continuously as like a full person, right? So you can't go through life scared that this thing might happen, and then in the process of that, you X out a lot of people that love you. You push people away. You essentially become what you don't want to become based off of a fear that may not ever happen, because you don't technically know. So I love that Paul's character is like, you won't be your dad because I'm not my dad. Because here's the thing, nobody is the version of their parent. Like, that's what I love what he had to say, because it's like, we do become our parents, but we don't, because we're us. We might have some of their traits, we might have some, but we don't become, like, to me, that's
which is a different pot of something.
Yeah, which is a different pot of something, which is me. I'm 50-50, and that makes me. So
plus,
like,
you're the
I will
other
never,
family members that you've interacted with, and
right?
people
I will never,
your childhood.
I will never be them, right? I would never be, who they are. I can only be me, and I just love that scene because of that. Because
I do agree. I like that. I just felt like,
yeah,
he should have. I guess today it would definitely be brought up. I think if it were a movie set in 2024, he would have been like, yeah, agreed. But here, let me tell you this as well. I think it would have been an as well.
But I'm okay. I'm okay with that, because like, it's not essentially about the fact that like his dad has this condition and that he might get this condition. It was more so about the fear in which the unknown holds, and this grown man telling him like, don't be afraid of that.
No, that's what I was saying. I agree with that. Do it scared kind of a thing. Don't stress about that.
If we had more,
if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
we had more, and if we had more information about like, because even he said it like, I don't know, like,
well, the mom
one day
says
he was
exactly.
fine, and then like 4 years later,
like, she lists out exactly what's wrong with him. He's both schizophrenic and early onset dementia.
No. I just meant like he didn't know, like he was just like, he knows like the condition his dad's in, but he was just like, one day he was fine, and then the next day he just this is what it was, right? So like for him as a young man to just kind of be like, well, my dad was this way and that's what I hold on to, and then he became this entirely different person. I think it was more so about him having to possibly let go of his dad. Like he
had to. The look in his eyes.
He can't.
Like,
he
didn't see his son. Like
that.
he could not see his son, and you just know it, and it's sad as shit. But it's just what do you do?
But then he sees his son after the fact, because that was a big issue. Is that like now he wants to come home and now he wants to be with his kid. So like he's still in there. Lucid moment. A glimmer, like some lucid moments. He's still in there, but it's like he's not there enough to be what that boy wants him to be. And like, I don't know, I just feel like it's such a powerful story. That's all.
For the sake of time, I was gonna say, for the sake of time, we definitely want to hit this other film, and I absolutely want to talk about American Fiction, because I absolutely do. That said, let's quickly rate, and we'll start with Tyler, like we did.
I'm gonna get. This is probably one of my 10s. Sorry, I'm not sorry actually. I think it's like such a cozy film. Yeah, like it's just cozy. It hits all the things. It's anti what we've been getting, like blockbustery. Like
and it's a Christmas movie.
Just a story.
It is a Christmas movie.
It's just a story for story's sake, and I like that. Yeah, exactly. It's like Die Hard. Good on you, Ty.
Do I have to go like this? Is that?
Are you back? Yeah, as I said.
I'm crying.
Oh, I think I ruined it.
No, now you messed it up. I can't see you now.
I just wanted to say something about the ending scene. I love,
and you not show it up. No, go ahead.
He did a little skip at the. He did like this goofy skip a walk away, and I thought that was like the perfect way to sort of summarize. That's like all the stuff that you guys were saying. I think that moment was important because like it was closure between their relationship. Like there was no more like whatever happens after this point, that's on you. What we learned from each other, we got, and what we do with it now, we're on our separate roads. Right. Like,
because when he says,
they won't ever see each other again.
Yeah,
they won't ever see each other again.
This
but
goofy ass skipping away.
But they'll remember, like they changed that boy's life.
Yeah,
like, they made him a better person.
Yep.
He'll be a congressman, and he'll tell a story about Mr. Hoonan later on.
I'm crying.
It'll be some like graduation ceremony in like 1987.
Right?
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. Movie would be called 1987.
Yeah. Also, can I just say, what's that one kid's name?
One kid?
Shout out to Tate Donovan for being the stepfather, because he was looking fine. He was like, fine.
He was a dick though. He was automatically like stepfather.
No, he was. He was.
I wanted to beat him up.
What's his name? The guy, the young kid Kuntz, who ended up getting like the burn on his forehead and stuff. And I was happy he got burns. I'm just happy.
The helicopter kid.
Got messed up. Yeah,
not the helicopter kid. No. The bully drug dealer.
But the other one, like the bully, the one who took his picture and everything, like that kid.
Oh, that guy. Ugh.
Yeah, I was happy he got in trouble. So
all right, Law. So give it a rate.
I gave it a 9. Solid film.
Nice.
It made me cry. Solid film. I gave it a 9.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 as well. Yeah, it's a 9. It's a 9. I think this is definitely. There's reasons it was up for awards. I think that all the reasons are all the people. For sure. This is a really, because it's not quite a bottle film, but it sort of is. And I like that about it, where you find 3 characters you would not expect ever to see hanging out together, learning to get to know each other. So
build like a little family, like a little winter family, Yeah.
Eating leftovers from
All right.
A few weeks ago. Anyway, moving on to American
She was
Fiction.
crushing that food, by the way. That's all I can say.
So American Fiction is another movie that was up for awards, did win Best Adapted Screenplay because it is based on a book, and stars Jeffrey Wright, as well as many others. Did you say Zaddy?
She's like, you know, that's right.
What's a Zaddy?
Oh,
a zaddy is a sexy daddy. Sexy daddy.
Not the lip bite too.
That's
everyone on the audio probably.
Really? That's a thing? That's sexy.
Yeah.
Zaddy. Yeah.
Sexy daddy.
All right. So we got Jeffrey Wright, Tracy Ellis Ross, Erica Alexander, oh wow, Issa Rae, and Sterling K. Brown, of course.
Issa,
I'm terrible. I'm so sorry.
No, I know. That's why I'm just telling you. No problems. Sterling K. Brown.
I'm terrible. And Sterling K. Brown.
Also Loki Zaddy. Sorry.
Leslie Uggams. Come on, Leslie Uggams. When I saw Leslie Uggams, I was like, yes, I love her.
This
Keith David, Adam Brody. Ooh.
That was such an amazing scene with Keith David. I love it when
I didn't know he was in the movie.
Me neither.
I saw his name on the credits and was like, ooh.
I did it. I like when movies do that. I like when movies take different stylistic or artistic choices and to show us what's in his head by showing us what's in his head and him kind of interacting with it. I was just like, chef's kiss on that, man. I thought that was great. So yeah.
Because I don't know if they would have been able to do it any other way. Like that was like, I don't know. Typically when you see like a writer going at it, like it's like they're on the keyboard or something, like a montage of the script or whatever. Like this was like way better to see it.
Yeah, way better. Especially when they look back and be like, why did I say that?
Really?
Yeah. Or like
he was like, so what should I say now? I was like, oh, this is great. And then Keith David's character was like, what you do that for?
He's like all shot and stuff.
He's like,
So real quick, we should put this out there for the people. So the premise of American Fiction is you have a literary author who has done well, not like the best, but is known for doing literature, and he just does like classic style literature.
Yeah, in more artistic circles, like more like like not popularized. Like
right, he's not Anne Rice. He's well, I wouldn't be able to tell you somebody because I wouldn't know that circle of literature, but he's not the typical bestseller, if you will. So he ends up finding out that there are people that are selling books about the Black experience that are ultimately a little bit more urban or street, or have the more classic dialect that you would expect to hear from Black people in a stereotyped way. And he gets really frustrated by hearing all of these, new authors that are doing well, or specifically one author, that he jokingly writes his own version of a book in order to show how ridiculous it is to pander basically to white people with Black novel, if you will. And it's Jeffrey Wright trying to act gangster in some ways, because he's playing a guy who he says he was in prison, and of course the dude probably went to Cambridge, and he's got a well-to-do family, and they've done well. I think do they even live in the Hamptons? It feels very Hampton-y.
Yeah, he came from a more upper class African American family, which isn't rare, but it's kind of rare.
Well,
I know that sounds very contradictory,
film, right?
But it's like it's rare, but it's no. I meant like in life. It's very rare in film. Like you don't really get that in film. But I was just speaking like out in like the real world. So like he plays a character that's like African American upper crust, which you don't really see in film like often, if ever. Like it's very like once a generation maybe. Like you might see this happen. But he plays a very like kind of like uppity African American that's like, which is a new kind of like take. He comes from a very well-off family. His father was just as smart as he was. Every person in his family is a doctor, and just in a different way.
Just not. Well, no, even he's a doctor. That's
everybody's
right.
like a doctor.
He's got a PhD in
no, even he's a doctor.
Yeah.
Like they're all the kids are doctors. just in a different way. Like his two siblings are like actual doctors. They could like
one's a plastic surgeon,
one's a
and the
plastic
other
surgeon,
one's
one's
like,
a
general physician,
one's
or something.
a general physician, like a
Mhm.
surgery or
Yeah.
general surgery, like a doctor, and then he's a doctor in the fits of philosophy and stuff like that. So like everybody's a doctor. His father was just as smart, but also he had his own demons. So it's
It's
I
a
thought it was
very
great film,
different
but yeah.
approach to a story.
It is.
So anything Jeffrey Wright does, I just love listening to the dude's voice. Like I will just
I
have a
I could
friend, just listen to
and
him,
I hope
and
he's
he'd put me to
watching
sleep at
this
night.
or will watch this because he kind of looks like Jeffrey Wright. And we make that joke a lot because Jeffrey Wright is if you haven't seen a picture of Jeffrey Wright, go look it up. He is like he's like a light brown skinned black man, but he has like red undertones, which kind of like at times make him maybe look like he might have been a ginger in a past life in my book. Like, and that's kind of like because he has like a light brown hue to like his hair and things like that. Like it's a little darker in the film, but it's still kind of like light brownish at times. It gives off like ginger, and my friend kind of like looks like that a little bit. So he kind of looks like Jeffrey Wright, and I think it's like hilarious. But continue.
Now this is the Jeffrey Wright look in the film: glasses, beard, bald head.
No, it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spot on.
So
Snitty is spot on Jeffrey Wright-ish.
I have too much gray.
Yeah.
He has a lot less gray than I do, which is like he's older than I am,
true.
so I don't know what's going on.
But you got a more luxurious beard, I'll say.
I've been working.
No offense to Jeffrey
hard
Wright
on this.
Yeah, no offense to Jeffrey Wright, but Snitty got him on the luxurious beard. I'm sorry,
I'm trying. I never was good with a beard, so this is my first time.
Jeffrey Wright was about to subscribe, and he's like, I don't know about this now.
So I looked the movie up on IMDb just to see like what the parental rating on this one was, and it actually. Oh no, wait! I did that for Babylon. I'm sorry, I totally forgot. I was doing it for all of them.
Babylon's hard.
Babylon is red all the way down.
Hello,
like it's literally it says
facts.
severe on all of them, which I thought was great. But
And
this one
maybe.
is quite a bit for the violence and for the language. I think in this film. So what did you guys think? What was your initial take? Let's start with Law. What did you think of American Fiction?
I enjoyed this film. This film felt like it felt meta in a sense. It felt like okay, I'm trying to get my words together. I'm sorry. It felt meta in the sense that like the film itself is about how people think they want the Black experience, but they want the like overtly like, the overtly stereotypical, what they think is the stereotypical Black experience, whereas the film was showing us a different type of experience. And then like intersplice with like a fake type of experience. I just felt like it was very meta in that sense. I felt like people would go in watching this film and take away the comedic moments, but not the more grounded moments from it. And I think, and so for me, American Fiction was kind of like a meta movie. It kind of like was like a snake eating his own tail in a sense when I was watching it, because
like
that was the whole point of Jeffrey Wright's character, was just like y'all want like this stupid stuff, but I'm giving you like a real experience with these books that y'all not paying attention to. But when I make up this fake experience, you're locked in. So in the movie itself, you're so engrossed in the fake experience he's creating, you don't see the experience he's making with him and Coraline, like him and his sister, his brother, his mother's, Alzheimer's and everything like that. So I felt like it was just like a very meta movie. I will say that like some of the comedy for me was slightly disjointed in moments where I was like, oh, you could have just let this be a dramatic moment, but you wanted to put in some comedy. And sometimes music will change the atmosphere of something to make the comedy sit better. And I felt like if they would have switched up the music in certain moments, like the scene where they're spreading the sister's ashes. Spoiler alert, if you were excited to see Tracy Ellis Ross in this film, she dies immediately. Which took me by surprise.
One really good scene. Two good scenes with her. And then
did she just die?
But she acted the crap out of it because you cried after when it happened. You're like,
do you understand me? Like, what is happening? Like, I was like, did she die? But it was like she knew she had this issue because based off her letter, she knew she had a thing, but she just kept it going. But like that scene where Philip comes up and he's like, yeah, you know, like, are you got a permit for this? That was supposed to be like a funny scene, but it was like, it felt kind of off to me because it went from like this very dramatic thing to them trying to insert some comedy. And for me, if they would have maybe changed the music or did something different, it would have made that sit better for me.
I think he was one of many white people in the film that were used as kind of a point to be made about white people and his interference in their
I definitely
life,
agree.
along with all of the people on the judging panel, along with the people that, you know, the publishers, they all kind of, especially the what I assume, which is a terrible assumption, but that he was gay. The guy that comes in and starts talking about, oh yeah, dog, you know, that was that publisher.
He's gay as long. Guess he's gay.
I assume, but it is an assumption. It's an assumption because just because somebody's an effeminate person doesn't just automatically mean that they're gay.
It's fine.
So
I'll down that hill. I'm sorry, but he was gay. But go ahead.
But all of them, I think, starting with him all the way down, or even the people that he dealt with at school or at his school, all had this kind of that white air, that arrogance, that what do they call it? The caucasity. They all had caucasity.
Yes, but like for me, like to me that works in the film. But for me, like when you intersplice comedic moments next to a dramatic, it's very hard to have a dramatic scene where we're crying about somebody's death and then to switch to comedy. Sometimes that's a hard thing
but it's
to
a
do,
dark comedy for
to
that
make
reason,
it
right?
And so to make it go seamless. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. What I'm saying is the comedy didn't hit for me, I think, the way that they wanted it to. And I felt like if you would have switched up, like maybe if the music would have switched up with it, or maybe because sometimes sound helps a lot in certain like comedic moments. But for me, it was like dramatic comedy, and it was like, this change the music up to make it to lighten that a little bit for me. But this is the directorial debut of this director, so it's a possibility to, like, you know.
Wait, what?
This is his first. I think
really?
it went to like, I don't know if it was like TIFF or whatever film festival that it was. I wanted to say though, it kind of plays. I thought it played into like what you were saying about like this movie being meta, and like I think like when those moments feel like disjointed is kind of part of the point of like I'm trying to like piece this together in my head. I'm also trying to find words.
No, that was me. Come on, I feel you, man. That was me all day.
Because like that's a lot of the movie, right? It's like, you know, you're trying to do one thing, but you're also trying to do the other thing. And you're trying to like make them both work, but like we can't quite get it there necessarily. Like it's hard to
it's hard. It's hard to make a dramatic comedy or a comedic drama. Like it's very hard because you have to like intersplice that comedy within the drama, and sometimes it's hard to stick that landing. Like some movies do it really well and some movies don't, and I feel like the only difference with this one was the music didn't like switch up to just add that layer for me. Not to say that all the comedic moments I was like, where's the music that goes with it? Like not all of the moments, but there were some moments where I was like, oh, if they would have just switched the because you switched the tone, you should have switched the music with the tone. It would have made this joke hit better, or made this scene kind of sit better.
And I wonder if that's to purposely like challenge the idea of what you would think typically a story should have, or like, you know, they're telling a traumatic moment, so it should have this, but let's do this instead. Like we'll just throw in this random guy who ruins an entire dramatic plot,
like point. Funeral, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Captain Salty Dog just showed up.
Hey,
sir. Haven't seen you in
Captain
forever.
Salty.
Welcome.
It's been a minute. Hi.
Tyler, what did you think of American Fiction?
Where's my last season of Westworld now? Jeffrey Wright, explain. I know it's not on you, but that's the only other thing I like. As we don't usually see Jeffrey Wright like leading man, right? I could be wrong. I don't know if I.
No, you're right. He's not. He's not as often.
No, you're right. Man. He's usually supporting. Yeah. He's had a couple of leading, but he's usually supporting.
Which like shouts out to him in like the French Dispatch and Asteroid City. I think people slept on that. I think he was really good in those movies, but again, he was playing supporting.
He's the Watcher in What If.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Just his voice alone.
Yeah, but he was in Lady in the Water, so I definitely got.
Yeah, I was
going to
say.
now.
So there's our connection between the two films. He plays the seer in Lady in the Water. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty dope.
Oh,
his son's the one with all the cereal boxes.
He really is Jeffrey Wright. He can't do no wrong.
Wow.
No, Lady in the Water's pretty stacked cast, so it's definitely.
American Fiction, I enjoyed a lot of it. I can't speak on like specifically what the movie's about, like the how we portray the Black experience and like how people consume it or whatever. But yeah, like I thought it brought up a lot of hard conversations in a way that like was, I guess, digestible, which I think is also meta in the movie. It's like here, let me present this in a way that's palatable for you, and rather than like in your face. Like yeah, because for me, like I think about that a lot. Like people want to hear, like, if I told a story about life in like living in Hawaii or whatever, people want to hear like, oh, what's the trauma that she went through? Like,
well, yeah, and
let me hear the traumatic experience.
You better be a surfer, or you better do specific
just very
things from
stereotypical.
Hawaii, right?
And yeah, all the stereotype things you see, like yes,
exactly.
They,
and then,
they
like,
want that experience. Yeah.
If you even try to do like, I thought about it too. I was like, man, I would love to do like a TV show here, but like, what it's like to live in like the neighborhoods here and how it's nothing like anybody. It's just kind of just normal for the most part.
It's like suburbia, right?
Yeah. It's like like a smaller California in a way, like a weird way, but
a more expensive California.
Yeah.
So it's like
dying here.
To the choir, man. Like what?
It does cost a lot to get stuff shipped to 5 islands in the middle of the Pacific. That
right.
That does cost a lot.
No, for sure.
So
and like, can you explain to me how like my paycheck should be like $1,400 and I end up with $800 at the end? I don't know. It's just taxes.
No facts. Like, yeah. I feel you on that, man. I feel you on that. What did you think of American Fiction? Oh, I'm sorry, Ty.
No, go ahead. Like that's pretty much all. Like all I wanted to say is like the acting's great, the story's great. I think it did bring up a lot of questions that I think most movies kind of have a hard time sort of like navigating properly without causing. I would say like this movie caused at least for me personally, the least sort of like controversial ways of approaching this sort of topic. Like
I could tell you as the white person on the panel that this movie rubbed some white people the wrong way because they're not ready to hear these conversations.
They're not ready to admit. They're not ready to admit that they are those people,
right?
That like the first scene where he's talking to the girl and she's like, well, it offends me, and he was like, well, if I got over it, you could get over it, which is honestly what this world doesn't do. Like there are people that are still mad at Chris Brown for what he did to Rihanna, but him and Rihanna still hang out. They've made music together. She's explained that it's not just, yes, he did a bad thing, but I was also complicit in it. She told all this stuff to Oprah. But people still can't get over something that she's gotten over. She's happily married, 2 kids, not even thinking about this man.
I think that moment illustrated like that type of like sorry, like I'm like TikTok and stuff sometimes where like person takes a certain stand and like they're really aggressive about it and like really
I think this is fundamentally like not saying it would never happen in another ethnic group or race, but white people, white women specifically in a lot of ways take on this like mantle of I'm going to help people.
Victim mentality. It's a victim mentality.
Right. I'm going to help people of color. I'm going to know everything about them. And I think the movie is tongue in cheek about that. I think that there is an element of that they're showing, but I would not think that one single white person in this movie was put in a positive light. They were all put in a very like negative light, and I think that works. I think it's brilliant in this film.
And I also think they come off sort of like ridiculous caricatures, but I actually feel like that's actually pretty accurate.
They're not inaccurate. They're caricatures.
No, they're not inaccurate at all.
Karens that are real.
I will say it might be very heightened because it is a film, so you have to get like that heightened experience. But it's still like. But those people still exist. Those people that are like want the Black trauma because it's profitable,
Right.
but it's never profitable for that Black person.
Right.
Right.
They
Like,
don't-
yeah, he
they
got
wanna
money
watch
for
the
this
Color
book. Like,
Purple,
yeah, he got
right?
money from this book. Right. They want to watch it. They don't want to live it. Right. They want to be a part of the trauma, but they don't want to actually be like, oh, I got a part. I got a
Everything that
hand in
comes
this.
with
I
it.
got a hand in this trauma. Like, no.
Let me
But what
just,
did you
like,
think of American
rewrite
Fiction,
history.
Snitty?
I absolutely adore this film. I will be watching it again. Like I said, I love Jeffrey Wright. The family dynamic, the added elements of the other characters. His mother with dementia. Pardon me. A little chocolate down the wrong tube. His mother with dementia all kind of filled out this world for me.
I could have taken
with his
that
character.
so many routes. Chocolate down the tube is great.
It was literally chocolate.
No, I know.
The way he plays the character when he tries to go and play Stag for the producer or the director is so uncomfortable. Is so, you can tell he's out of his element. And I love the ridiculousness that because he saw an ambulance and ran, that the white guy was like, "Oh, I love that you ran when you heard sirens," and it was like loaded with that kind of like. And I'm laughing at this because it's not wrong. White people are not ready. This movie is saying white people might not be ready to have these conversations. Is what I think it's trying to say. And
Also,
some
they
people
should
are
have
just
these
out there trying to
conversations.
live. Just trying to live lives.
Right.
It is. I think it's a film everybody needs to see. I think some of the little tucked in jokes were some of the kind of subtle moments where, like when they go to the bookstore and he finds all of his books under African American studies, and he's like, "Dude, these are just literature."
And
they're
that's
like, "Yeah, but you're black," and he's like, "But
and that's so real. That is so real. Like
right?
they don't categorize our books. They kind of do now because like when you go into like a Target and stuff like that, but it's still kind of messed up in that way too. Like if I wrote like a young adult novel, more than likely it'll probably be under like African American studies, and it's like that's not. I ain't studying nothing but magic in this book. Like
even if it's universal, right? It's just about being a kid.
It's just about being a kid or something like that. It'll still be under African American studies because the author, which is black, which is why a lot of people go under pseudonyms and don't show their face because they want their book to have like a fair chance.
And this is playing on that, but the other way. He obviously,
for sure, but the other way,
he plays a pseudonym and goes the other way, which is weird. I really thought the other one was where he's sitting there reading, and on the TV, I think it was like they were showing watching African Americans, cinema history, and all they're showing is like Menace to Society, New Jack City, like all the like most hardcore films.
Right. That only shows a glimpse of a certain type of black person, and because you'll never find the full gaze of a black person. And I think that this film was trying to say that too. Like there's so many shades to being, ironically, but there's so many shades to being like a black person, to being like an American black person. I hate saying African American because I was born in America, so are they. Born in Africa. So being like an American black person, like there's so many different shades to that. Like I'm not upper crust, but I did live. I lived a very middle class life. Did I see some things? Yes, I did, but I didn't see some worse things that I could have seen if I didn't live in the area in which I lived in. So watching this film was honestly like they took a piece of like my life and was like, remember when this happened in your life? Remember when people kind of judged you? Like when I go, like it even happens within the black community itself. Like when I was younger and I would go visit my family down south, and they would be like, the younger kids that like would just meet me or haven't seen me in a while and be like, "Oh, like where are you from again?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Detroit." "Oh, you ever seen a dead body?" Like, no, I just go to school and stuff.
Like should I have seen one?
Like should I have seen one? You know what I mean? So it's like it's one of those like guys is where even within your own community or even your own family, they think because you grew up in a certain place or you're in a certain area that they assume it's more like harsh. That of course you've seen like dead bodies. Of course you've seen somebody get shot. Of course you've seen these things.
This is a ridiculous like comparison, but it is similar. When I went to visit family in Wyoming when I was a kid, when I was like 12, they were like, "Oh, you're from California, so you like surf, right?" No. Never been on a surfboard. Never been on a surfboard in my life. But it's the same kind of thing. But people just hear about an area and then that's all that area is to them from then on, and it's
and the only difference is in the world people look at a black person and they put any black trauma they can think of or any type of thing that's related to black people based off what they've seen in media or heard, and they put it on like it's monolith into like a black person. Right. So like if you're black, then you've either killed or saw a death. You either are gangster or you talk like broken English. You know what I mean? Like
you have to know drug dealers.
You have to know drug dealers. You have to have done drugs, been on drugs, done these like weird things. You have to have been a single mother or, a prostitute at some type. Or it's always these things, and it's just like, nah. I just went to school like a normal person and graduated. Like I did. You know what I mean? And I love that Jeffrey Wright's character is like, aren't we tired of seeing the same narrative? Which is what the film, to me, is why it is so meta, is because like the film shows that narrative, but also shows underneath it, there's a family that's going through so much that people aren't really paying attention to, that if he actually wrote that story, that would be a beautiful story.
But that's the story we get to see, which I love.
I know, right? It's essentially
very mouth
the story,
of madness in a way.
Yeah,
very
because it's what he's telling to Adam Brody's character. Like they're literally reading the script.
Do we only ever see Jeffrey Wright for real for a minute at the end of the movie? Because I think that's what's happening. I think at the very, very end is where we actually only see him, and we've been just being told the screenplay the whole time.
No, that's what I just said. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch
that. He's telling the story. Essentially, it was just him telling the story to the director.
Right, and then at the end, he did the Wayne's World. Change it up a couple times.
Yeah, change it up.
But in a very it was a Wayne's World ending, but in a very fucking real and cool way. Like
yeah.
But
then part of me is like, which one is true? Which way is true? Like you kind of get to like inception it and choose your ending.
He says what the truth. I believe I know what the truth is. Now I don't know if he ever gets in trouble for judging his own book, because that's a fucking huge no, and he would never be invited to be a judge ever again on any panel ever.
But to be fair, they all got fooled. I don't know.
And I'm sure he still made the money. But
to be fair, he voted against his own book, and that might be his only
but that's still it's still
that
unethical.
Might be his only.
Yeah.
But that might be his only saving grace, is that
he should have bowed out when he knew the book was so hard that day. He should have bowed out.
But they would have asked why, and he would have to admit something he did not want to admit. I'm just saying.
I did love that the kind of his counterpart author was kind of like blatant, like, what do you mean I'm not going to make my money? Like, of course I'm going to fucking make my money. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And he had a kind of a different moral set than her. I'm not saying that she was immoral, but that they had a different set of morals about that.
But
which is again part of the conversation, right? That's part of
But then that eventually became his set at the end, because he was like, all right, well, since that's what's gonna get me money and that's what y'all want, then so be it. I'll be a part of it as much as I can be a part of it. But
the girl never calls him back. In reality, he never sees her again.
Nope.
Like that's
I don't blame her for that.
And I don't think he's chummy with his brother. Although in the wedding scene, they shake hands, which I really liked. It's such a subtle thing on the side, but he brother reaches
honestly
out,
I think him and his brother do, because if you look at when you see Sterling K. Brown now in the car, he has a whole different hairstyle, which means that this took place like sometime in the past.
Oh, that's a good point.
His hair,
and they're still
his
hanging
hair
out.
Is cut. He's shaving.
Did you
get your movie made? Like they're still hanging out. I do believe that the girl never called him back, because what you're not gonna do is trauma dump on me, and then be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me explain. Have a good day."
We know he didn't die at the theater.
Right? No, for sure. We know he didn't. No, for sure. But I do think that him and his brother are on better terms, because they needed to talk anyway.
It's literally just them now. Everybody else is gone.
Yeah, everybody else is gone. Right. Shout out to Lorraine though. She got herself married. I said, "Come on, Lorraine."
The way they were smitten after those two actors, like you could see smitten on their faces in such a beautiful way.
The moment he was like, "Lorraine," and she was like, "Maynard," I was like, "Get them together. Yeah. Get them together."
They should have been having babies 20 fucking years ago. That's what I'm thinking.
No, facts. Facts.
No, this is.
But I like that we were invested in somebody that we just met. Well, at least I know I was invested in her, and when I just met her, and I love the line where he's like, he's like, it's easier to be nice to other people's family. He was like, well, in a few hours, they about to be your family too. Like, because I love it, like that she's not family, but she's family. Like they're connected. There's no way to not get her without them.
The way she defended her food at the care facility, where she was like, she eats it with the crust off and only with white bread. Okay, like this is gonna be right.
Like let's make these changes. Right. Which I love that, because that is her family. Like as a person who I took care of my grandmother for a long time. Like and like from a certain point up until her death, I took care of my grandmother. You become possessive of people as though they're yours when stuff like that happens. When you're that involved in somebody's day to day, when you like change them or feed them or make sure they're okay and you take care of them, you're so involved that the moment somebody like doesn't do it correctly, where you know that that's how the person likes it, you're like, yeah, but this is how it goes. Like, I know what I'm saying. Like, this is how it goes. And so that standpoint, I was like, love Lorraine. She's amazing. I love Lorraine, and it's just like subtle stories in the background that it's just like so beautiful to me. Like her asking Monk to walk her down the aisle, the fact that like obviously Cliff is going through a lot right now. Obviously he's going through a lot, and she could have easily been like, you need to get out of here. You're about to ruin my family. I'm my family. Like, you're about to ruin my marriage, like my wedding. But she was just like, you family. And I felt like that's all he needed to hear, because I felt like he felt, because since he came out, he's not a part of anybody's family now. Because like we already shown that Monk doesn't really reach out. He doesn't come around. He isolates himself. The sister in which he was very close to is dead. His mother didn't care for his lifestyle when she was lucid. And now that she's not as lucid as she used to be, it's digging into him. He can't really let that go. He's feeling some way about his father, not really fully knowing who he was before he died. He just needed to feel like somebody still loved him, that he was in the family somehow. And I think that was the moment that he changed, even though we didn't really get to see that throughout like the film, like his change, even though at the end it felt like he did get sober and got himself together and type of thing. So, but yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Sterling K. Brown's like performance too. He's when he gets emotional, I get like super emotional. Like the scene between him and Jeffrey Wright on the porch, that was just like a really calm, like really nice scene. And seeing his mom dance with like with the other two gay guys, they were just like dancing, and like I was just like, that's such a good scene. It's so great. It's like her approving in a way without us saying like, I approve.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just being settled in it. And like, because everything doesn't have to be like spoon fed to you. And like, it just shows the growth without them being like, we're growing in this moment. Did you see that she said that she was okay with him being gay? Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's
another
like,
meta thing for screenwriters.
Right.
Yeah. I dig that.
Movies are a visual medium, and you can do a lot with that. You don't have to always just say it. And that is what Denny was trying to say. That is ultimately what villain. Oh God, I'm gonna screw it up, and then Hannah's gonna get all mad. Denny, I know that Villeneuve, I think is correct.
Villeneuve.
Vanilla. Denny Vanilla. No.
Vanilla bean.
Vanilla.
Put it in the chat.
Anyway,
I was
but I think that's what he meant by that, and ultimately.
No. Can I also say too, the scene where they're like ranking the books, and the girl is like, I just think it's really like we should really be listening to Black voices right now, when they just denied the two Black voices in the room. I was like, I was like, that's great writing right there. Like that's literally, that scene is literally society as a whole. That's society as a whole. That's like white people crying that Black people need to be heard more. And then when we say stuff like, can y'all stop wearing box braids, or can y'all stop using the N-word, or can y'all stop doing this stuff? It's like, you need to be heard, but like not when it comes across what we don't want to be done. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, you can't push the white people out in order to allow the Black voices in. That wouldn't be right?
That wouldn't be right. Like,
We've had our
like
time.
it's because it's kind of like
Just
them
saying.
saying like your opinion only matters when it matters to us,
Right.
and I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Like it's just like your voice matters
when I want to hear it.
when I agree with it, but when I don't agree with it, your voice doesn't matter. And I think this film showed that in an abundance.
Agreed.
And yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Rate it for me. We are way over normal time because these are good movies.
Are we?
Oh yeah.
It's 8:58.
We normally cut it about an hour and a half these days, hour 45. We're
One more quick
over-
fact. The movie was actually called Fuck before it actually was called Fuck, and they changed it to American Fiction.
Really?
Oh, another meta fact. Apparently,
Yeah,
I don't know how true that fact is, but I read it. I was like, that's super funny.
I like that. I liked my pathology at first too when he put the F. That was hilarious.
I want to figure out a way if they like found a way to put it on the poster. Does it still say fuck somewhere? It feels like it might.
Yeah, right there. It says
Excuse
fick.
me.
Fick.
It's almost like it's like a way of saying fuck.
It is a weird.
Fick.
Like you're not wrong. Yeah. It says Mayor, I can fick
I can fick. Yeah.
Tion. So
I'm crying.
anyway, go ahead and rate the film.
This film was made for less than $10 million and it made $23 million at the box office. So I think that's pretty solid at the same time. But to rate this film, I give this film a 9.5. I thought this film was amazing. I cried. I felt some emotion, and also it's rare for me to find a film with a black lead that kind of shares in my experience as a human being. So yeah, I enjoyed this film. 9.5.
Tyler?
I'm also gonna get, screw. I'm gonna give this one a 10 too, because I also really
Come on,
enjoyed
American nonfiction.
it just plays with it, just goes between being like meta and saying a lot of things without saying it outright, and just like I don't know, I just also enjoyed. I'm not gonna go on because this podcast is gonna be way too long if I keep going on. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 10. It's great.
I rated it an 8 once I was finished, which I think is a solid rating. I think it deserves at least that. But after this conversation, I think I might bring that up to a 9 at least. This is a movie everybody should watch this movie. Especially guarded white people.
Yes. Unguard yourself, because I want to say this to any white people that's listening, really, 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 really listening. And I'm not trying to be mean or rude or anything like this, but admitting that there has been atrocities against black people committed by people that look like you, even though it wasn't you, okay, it won't take anything away from you. You can admit that those atrocities happened and your life can stay the same. I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of black people, a lot of black American people, is that why people always feel like we're trying to make ourselves victims or however it is that no one wants to admit what has happened to black people systemically as a people. And until we can get to that point, there is always going to be racial wars between black and white people about who listens, who doesn't, this doesn't make sense, this, it's always going to be these issues. It's okay to admit that black people was done dirty. And as many years as it took for us to kind of like get the right to vote and to be in these places and to be in these spaces, it's going to take that even much longer for black people to get out of the mentality of what systemic racism has done to us as a people so that we can all move forward amicably. But that won't happen until people can admit that a wrongdoing was done. I just want to say that. And I hope y'all have a Merry Christmas.
I think that
Happy New Year
was about as poignant as we're going to get. So we're going to end it there. This has been episode 30. Holy crap. 24 of season 3 is what I meant to say.
24. We in the future.
Yeah. We will be back next week, like I said, with a guest. And the movies are The Descent and Pearl. And
Pearl,
Mr. Captain Salty Dog will be a guest in a few weeks. We're going to be doing
a whole
D&D and a whole D&D thing.
So come on, Captain.
Anyway, you guys have a great evening, and thanks for watching The Real Study.
And before y'all go, don't forget to follow us on all social media separately and together. We appreciate all the support that you guys give us, either that's on the podcast or live on YouTube and Twitch. Thank you all for being here and just joining in with the conversations. So, yeah.
Agreed.
Y'all be a pearl, darling. Oh, don't